Hello, hello. Welcome to the LFJ podcast. I'm your host, John Freund. I'm here with Richard Culberson, CEO of MoneyPenny. MoneyPenny is a communications service. They offer phone answering, receptionist, live chat. Richard, why don't we start by just having you introduce yourself, tell us a bit about your background and a bit about MoneyPenny.
Sure. First off, thanks for having me, John. It's a pleasure to be back on the show. So I'm the CEO of MoneyPenny. We've been serving clients here in the U.S. for over 25 years, with focuses heavily across legal, but also we serve healthcare and other industries as well. We'll talk about some of the common themes that we see across those industries. We talk a little bit more, but very proud to serve over 6,000 clients across the U.S., serving a range of needs all the way from legal intake, all the way through a schedule appointment, handling payments, everyday calls and transactions, serving clients across the legal space.
All right, so legal professionals, we're going to focus on those, obviously, even though you have a broad range of customers. But legal pros, when it comes to adopting new technology in this sector, legal services, not exactly known for being as maybe as forward moving as other sectors in terms of new tech adoption. There's a lot of personal touch that they need with their clients. What sort of advice would you give to law firms and legal funders when it comes to innovation versus professionalism and human connection? How do you balance those?
Sure. I always I think the most important thing when it comes down to the very beginning is, what do you do best? How do you serve clients? What are things that can't be replicated, and focus on doing that? And then start removing some of the noise. So I think it sounds like you're removing something that becomes a personal, or that personal touch. But if you can remove some of the repetitive tasks, that allows you to focus more on the core servicing of the client. So if that's legal intake and you say, listen, here's some ways that we can capture some basic information that you can focus on serving clients as they go further down into your relationship, that actually helps them. And clients always find and respect that you're valuing their time. And it allows you to focus on the clients the best way that you possibly can, and allowing other partners with their aspects and strengths, whether it's people, technology, or different tools that you can automate to remove some of that noise in the day-to-day relationship.
Yeah, and when it comes to the specific services MoneyPenny offers, things like smart communication platforms and AI-enabled client insights, these sound really powerful, but they also sound very complex. So I'm curious to know about some practical first steps. Say that a law firm or a legal funder, that if they want to sort of future-proof their communication strategy without being too overwhelming, without being too cumbersome to the team that's already in place and already has sort of best practices in place, what are the steps that they can go about to do that?
Sure. We hear that a lot. It can be intimidating, and there's so much technology in the space, especially as soon as you talk about AI. It becomes very intimidating, very complex, and people don't know, well, where do I start? Or they're very eager to get into the space on the other side of the spectrum, but they don't know exactly what should they do first. So I've always encouraged of just start simple, start basic, come in with a relationship and find a good partner that you trust to help build that, what that tool could possibly do for your business. But if you start simple and build on the back of that, that might be as simple as a simple messaging service. And then that's kind of our bread and butter and what we were built on. But then we started building technology and more capabilities into it so we can grow with the business. So if you start small, build that up, and a lot of times talk to your peers, talk to your partners, they can give you a little bit of guidance about kind of how do you build into that. So for example, I think everybody, CRMs have been out there for quite a while. But even if you start with a very light, easy, basic tool for CRM, that gives you a foundation that you can build on. You don't have to take it all at one time. So if you start with that initial step and to build a product roadmap, or just any kind of a journey as knowing you want to get from A to B to C, that tends to help. Because otherwise you just get very wrapped around the axle around, oh, I think I should be doing this, or I know another firm is doing something else. If you really start with that foundation and start simple, it helps to build that plan over time.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I know that security is going to be a big question here for folks in the legal sector. So there's obviously a lot of confidential information being shared. So when it comes to that kind of sensitive client information, What should firms be evaluating when they look at a secure digital communication tool? What sort of things should they look at, and what do you offer that can maybe ease some fears?
Sure. I think everybody these days, you hear about the breaches, you hear about the lack of trust. And not everyone is a cybersecurity expert. So the way that I commonly approach it to someone who's running a smaller firm or even a mid-sized firm, where you might not have all of that infrastructure and the professionals around you, is general rule of thumb is go with the tools and the systems and the partners that are built to suit your industry. So for the legal industry, what are the tools that are built around the compliance needs, the regulation needs, the client security needs that you know you have in your business? It always helps if someone starts as someone that knows that legal space or even sub industries underneath. If you're personal injury, who knows how to work with your clients and what they're experiencing? So if you start with that, that actually enables you to build it and you become a lot more professional in how you represent them.
Mhm.
You start with that. If here's someone who knows my industry, and that's what we've been proud to do for a long time. We've been actually handling millions of client conversations on behalf of clients. So we know in the legal industry exactly what that looks like and how we provide end-to-end encryption, for example. Using just another example, as we're built around, we serve a lot of healthcare, as I mentioned in the past as well. We make sure that we're HIPAA compliant. So if you start and build all your tools to kind of meet the top end of those needs, it's easy for us to work down to might be your specific needs and your client conversations versus someone who's kind of building bottoms up, doesn't know the legal industry, doesn't know the data that they have to protect and the sensitivity of every one of the conversations. It really helps with somebody who's built around your industry. And that's something that we're proud to be doing in the legal industry within MoneyPenny.
Yeah, and when it comes to this sort of innovative tech like this, there's obviously things are moving very fast. So, in your opinion, what's one technology that firms might be overlooking, but really has the potential to make a real difference in the client experience over the next couple of years?
Sure. It sounds basic, but it is kind of these client experience platforms we've been talking about. You can call it lots of different terms, but at its core, that CRM, that customer relationship management, having some capability, because there's nothing worse than one of your prospects or one of your clients or partners has a conversation with you and you can't relay that. So you can't listen to them and build on that relationship over time. So that being, especially in the legal industry, you have to be able to capture that quickly, efficiently, and build on a relationship. Quite often we see you'll call back in, you'll get a different assistant or a different paralegal or someone else in the firm, and they have to start back over again. That's incredibly frustrating, which can lead to the loss of that prospect, the loss of an existing client, which sounds a little bit extreme, but even so, they're less likely to refer you to the next opportunity because of the frustration they have on relaying their information. So I think establishing that relationship, establishing the trust with capturing the information that's necessary in their particular case, their situation, that's incredibly important.
And when you look at the future of this industry, how do you see client expectations evolving? What role do you think technology is going to play in helping law firms and legal funders not just maintain the sort of client expectations, but actually really lead in that client service?
I do think the people that embrace technology and understand technology really have a foot forward. So you don't necessarily have to jump fully into that pool because I know it can be intimidating. It can look like a lot. But I encourage people who say, well, this is natural. I don't know that much about AI. Just play with what's out there. Use it in your personal life. Get comfortable with it. People who are comfortable embracing it will then start to understand how it does and it doesn't apply to your clients. So if you think with that mentality and get embedded in that way, that's where you see people get a lot more successful. So when we typically start with it, quite often can start as a very simple relationship. We'll do message taking, for example, and just relaying it or help internally make sure that calls get routed the right way. Get deeper into a relationship, we can actually help take that client information and put into those CRM systems we talked about. So you start building into that and get more comfortable. And again, that lets your highly skilled, highly expensive resources within the firm focus on what their expertise is and what they're basically what only they can do. So that's typically how we've seen the successful firms really start to partner and embrace technology is build on how do you listen closer to your customers and how you have more relationships. And a lot of that just comes down to the simple art of listening more to the people that you're speaking with.
Yeah, listening is always good. I can definitely see there's so much value here for legal services. Obviously, client expectations, like you said, are high, and having those client services at the top level, the highest possible level, is so important.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's your first touch, and you just have to make the best first impression. So it's really great to learn more about what MoneyPenny is doing. If you'd like to learn more about MoneyPenny, you can visit them at their website, www.moneypenny.com. And Richard, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing more about MoneyPenny and about your communication services. We really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks, John. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. And thank you all for joining. We hope to see you on the next episode of the Legal Funding Podcast.